and welcome to a Frank Partnership webinar. This webinar is turning discounts into cash flow, a fantastic strategy for property investment, one of the 51 strategies that we use on the Frank Partnership, but certainly one of the most lucrative and one of the most asked about strategies that we use. Quite a few of the people that I come into contact with on public speaking events, other property courses that we go on, etc. I get asked about this strategy time and time again. The majority of my franchisees, the majority of my clients use this strategy, not all, but a lot. And I'll tell you about some of the results I've had from using it over the last 9 years or so. So without further ado, let's crack on and show you how to use this strategy. I guess I should probably start though by saying that my objective from just under an hour I'll spend on this strategy. I'll give you as much value as I possibly can from this hour, and really the top outcome that I'd like for you to have at the end of this hour is to know how to utilize this strategy yourself, how to run the 3 steps. There's only 3 simple steps to using this strategy, and know how to run those steps to really start using this in your area and in your property business. So let's have a look at who this webinar is for. Well, it's basically for three types of people. If you're new to property, you're not an experienced investor and perhaps still in a job, then this strategy can work really well. At any one time, we've probably got between 6 and 10 transactions going through my office. That's my property investment company, and we, even when it's really busy and we've got 10 on the go, we're probably still only spending 2 hours a day moving these transactions through. So if you think about that, if you're only looking to do 1, 2, 4, or 5 a year, then you can definitely do this part-time, this strategy. So if you're still in a job and you're trying to get yourself out of the rat race, then this strategy can sit alongside it by doing a bit of work in the evenings, perhaps on a Saturday. It's also for seasoned investors. So if you have an established strategy that you're already using, so I've got some clients that have got 20, 30, 50 properties in multi-million pound portfolios, then it's also for you, because by purchasing properties using this strategy, or putting deals together using this strategy, so JV, joint venture, partner collaborations on deals, it can be massively productive, massively more profitable for you. In fact, we are doing some quite sophisticated multi-site deals in London at the moment that are using this strategy in order to raise our profitability and help us to negotiate better terms with our JV partners. So lots and lots of utilization, lots of different uses of this strategy. If you are flipping conventionally at the moment, so if you are buying properties, doing them up and then selling them, this will blow your mind. You can pretty much treble your profits on most deals, definitely double them, just by using this strategy. So if you're flipping conventionally, please don't do that anymore, and at the end of this webinar you'll realise why. And then finally, if you're buying a property and are not interested in flipping it at all, you want to just hang on to it for the long haul, so you are just building a portfolio, this strategy helps you massively. It helps you to refinance at higher levels, and it enables you to get better valuations, and even when you're purchasing the property, you can get a lower loan to value mortgage, which means you can access better rates. So most those 3 areas, but most investors or most people will benefit from this strategy. So hopefully in the next 50 minutes or so you will understand enough about this strategy, understand how simple it is to actually use it in your own property business. Okay, so here's a few examples from around the country. I think I've already mentioned this strategy works everywhere. Yes, you have to tweak it slightly depending on the strategy that you're using, so your investment model. your property investment model. But in a nutshell, it works all over. I'm based in the Midlands, so I do this predominantly in Derby, Nottingham, but other investors use it all over the country. Let's take a look at Maddie in Northampton. She's done 3 of these deals. Now, she had never invested before September 2015. So she's been investing just over a year. She's at about 18 months. She had only ever bought her own property before then. She's done 3 examples of this strategy. So she's done 3 deals using this strategy in the last 6 months, which is £120,000 net profit, which is quite phenomenal. That blows your mind when thinking about other strategies in an 18-month period that can generate those kind of returns. In Derby, 2 examples in the last few months, £75,000 net profit. Now, those kind of figures are easily achievable when you understand the 3 steps of the turning discounts into cash flow strategy, and I will talk you through those 3 steps now. Okay, so a little bit about my journey before we crack on. I am nothing special. So if you're sat there thinking, oh yes, but Frank, you know more about sales than me, or you've got more experience than me, or whatever. Here's where I was at. I was a lifeguard, then I was a secondary school science teacher, and I had a failed estate agency closed shortly after the credit crunch in 2008. So it really doesn't need an especially sophisticated skill set. Yes, you have to know what you're doing. Yes, you have to have all the paperwork in order. You do have to understand the sales system. But once you've understood the system, it is relatively easy to run the system. And I have clients all over the country that are making good money from this strategy. Turning discounts into cash flow was the turning point for me. It meant in 2007, when I started using it properly, it meant that I started generating big chunks of cash. So this strategy can earn you 15, 20, 25, 30,000 pounds in a single transaction. In 2009, it was my best year for turning discounts into cash flow. Myself and a business partner did 26 of these turning discounts into cash flow flips. So you can see how you can scale this up if you have the appetite for it, really. It led to a profitable business and freedom to choose for me. So freedom to choose location. The year before last, I took 14 and a half weeks holiday. I had 2 young boys, both below school age, and it was the last year before my eldest son went to school. So my wife and I decided we'd just go on as many holidays as we fancied. And I was still able to run my business because turning discounts into cash flow, as I've already mentioned, is quite low reactiveness. So half an hour here, an hour here, can run the strategy quite simply, and of course, so freedom of geography, but also freedom of time. So working when you want to, not being tied to a 9 till 5. So it's a very flexible strategy while still being highly lucrative. So the 3 steps. Let me kick off with the 3 steps. In a nutshell, it's the vendor step, the investor step, and then the transaction step. So let's drill down a little bit, and then we'll go into a lot more detail in a moment. The finding the vendor, that's the first part of it. You have to find someone that's willing to sell their property to you. Now, you can either find it below market value, or you can find a property at market value that you can add value to, and it really doesn't matter which you do. So if you're in a more stagnant part of the country, so the East Midlands is a good example, the North East, then or the Northwest actually, BMV is easily achievable. We're averaging about 27-28% below market value on the deals that we're sourcing at the moment. Yes, you have to do some work to find them, but we're easily able to find several of those a month. If you're in the southeast, then that's going to be a lot harder, and you're probably looking at small discounts off the market value or none. but then you're looking for deals where you can add value and then utilise the TDIC strategy. But just before you're sat there thinking, oh well, I'm south, so I can't get a discount. One of my clients, Pauline, she's based just outside of Southampton. She negotiated a £265,000 property for £208,000 just last week. So my maths fails me. 265 minus 208. 265 minus 208 is not 208. 265 minus 208. £57,000 discount. Be interesting to see what that is as a discount, given that that's on the south coast. Divided by 265. That's a 22% discount in the Southampton area. So, and that's £57,000 income for her as well when she sells it to a waiting investor using this strategy. So you've got finding the property, you've got selling the service to the vendor, so selling our offer to the vendor, and then signing the vendor up so that you're in a watertight agreement. That's step one, nice and simple. Step two is finding the investor, selling the service to the investor, and then signing the investor up. And as I say, this is all completely systemized. In fact, all of the systems are in this this manual. So this is our turning discounts into cash flow manual. And if we use the vendor as an example, let me give you a quick overview. That's our most successful leaflet that we use for sourcing below market value investors. And then if you flick through, you've got our wholesale system of which letters to send and when. And then as you flick through, you've got what to take with you when you meet the vendor for the first time. And I won't show you this in detail, but that there is the entire sign-up pack. So you've got about page 17 to page 56 is every single form, trying to show you every single form that you need for the sign up. So all of it is in that manual. So it is all completely systemized. Then you need to sign up the investor. Well, there's a similar section in here. I'll just show you the index instead, because that'll probably be easier. In the front of the index, you've got all the sign up pages for, here you go, so there's your letter for the investor to present their property to them. There's the agreement that you sign with the investor when you take their deposit, etc. So it's all very well systemized. And if you have any problems after this webinar running the system, don't hesitate to give me a call or drop me an email, and I will help talk you through them. I will, by the way, at the end of the webinar, be giving you an opportunity to come onto a one-day packed seminar where I take you through everything from start to finish. I take you through the manual, I take you through role play of how to talk to vendors, how to talk to the investors, how to go through the sales process to each of those two groups, and literally teach you everything you need to know about this strategy. So if at the end of the webinar you're thinking this is a strategy I want to use, that's probably your best way of fast tracking to those kind of returns that Maddie and Pauline and other clients are achieving. So I'll give you the details of how you can come on that webinar, on that seminar at the end of the webinar. And then finally, step 3 is babysitting the transaction. So once you've signed up the vendor, you then need to sign up the investor, and once you've got those two, you then just babysit the transaction through to completion. So you liaise with the solicitors, you chain chase and see it through to completion, and you get paid on completion. As I say, £15,000 is about a minimum that we'll work a deal on. Okay, so step 1, finding, selling to and signing the vendor. So where might you find these vendors? Well, pretty much anywhere at all. We use a whole myriad of different strategies. From Rightmove, we'll source vendors on Rightmove. In other portals that aren't as popular, so Gumtree, Zoopla, anywhere online. We scour online looking for properties that we want to that this strategy will work on. Also, we use off-market quite a lot. Off-market works particularly well, so we'll use leaflets, post office adverts, newspaper adverts, direct letters to vendors. In fact, we have a piece of software that scrapes Rightmove, Zoopla, Gumtree for properties that have been on the market for more than 12 months, and then we write direct letters to them. Incidentally, we do sell that piece of software, so if you're interested in it, just drop me an email at the end of the webinar and I can give you the details of that. Okay, and then, so that's finding the property. Then you need to explain the process to the vendor. So if you're doing a below market value purchase, then you need to be selling the benefits to the vendor. So why are they selling to you below market value? Well, in a nutshell, they are hiring you to perform a service for them. So they are buying your service with equity. So let me give you an example of one I've done this week, actually. Here's one that's going through at the moment. So it's an £150,000 value property times, I've got it at 65% purchase price, so I'm buying it for £97,500. So that's £52,500 discount or a 35% discount. The gentleman that's selling that to me is not prioritising the end purchase price as his top priority. He actually wants certainty because he's got a bridging loan that he needs to repay that he's in default on, and he wants swiftness, and he wants me to take all the stress out of the process for him. So from the day that he signed up, and I'll talk you through the details in a moment of what he signed up. From the day he signed that up, he just can relax about it. I'm taking over the speaking to the bridging provider on his behalf. I've offered to go to court to stop the repossession if that becomes necessary. Everything I do. I take over everything for my vendors so they can just relax. And they pay me in equity. So that gentleman's paying me £52,500 in the equity in his property in order to get that peace of mind, that swiftness of transaction, etc. And then you need to know what to sign the vendor up onto. So it's mainly two documents that you need to sign up onto. So let me drag across this document here. Here we go. This is, you need two bits of information. The first is a option agreement. So this is a property purchase option agreement, and you may have, let me bring this across so you can still see me. There we go. So you might have come across options before. If you want this actual option agreement, this is the one that I sign everyone up onto. This is the one that my clients use. If you want this option agreement, just drop me an email and I can send it out to you, no problem at all. But basically, you put the date in, you put you as the buyer, the person selling as the seller. They put in their property address, or you put in their property address. I always pay £1 for my property options, so you put £1 into where it says option payment, and then the purchase price is the amount that you've negotiated with them. So in that instance of that one that I'm doing at the moment, even though it's worth £150,000, I have put the purchase price in at £97,500 as the amount that the vendor will receive. The option period, you just have to make that so it's long enough that the vendor won't wait for the option to expire and then sell to someone else. So I normally just make that 6 months. Excuse me, because if someone's using my service, if they're asking me to buy their house, then they don't want to wait 6 months just to get a few more pounds for their property. So I make it 6 months, and that's it. This is all legal jargon written in by the solicitor. Any additional terms? I don't think there are any on a bog standard one. Sometimes there might be. In fact, I'm doing one at the moment, different property. I think that's 130,000, and I've got that at 70%. So that's at 91. Yeah, that sounds about right. Those figures. So that's 130 for 91,000, and that gentleman wants to be able to move into one of my flats once I've bought his house. So we'd probably tie that in there. We'd say, as agreed, you can rent this flat for this amount of money for a minimum of a 6-month term, and that the buyer, Frank Flegg, will sign an AST to that, so that he knows on the day that we complete the purchase of his house, he can move into that flat. Anything that they require really can go in there. Sometimes I put in that I'll pay their mortgage if they don't have enough money. I'll pay their mortgage during the conveyancing period, which I know will be 4, 5, 6 weeks usually. They sign it, it's witnessed, so I normally get a neighbour to, I sign it, and then a neighbour witnesses it, they sign it, and a different neighbour witnesses that. And then you've got a legal advice declaration. I always say to them, if you want to hang on to this and have a think about it and send it to me, that's fine, but if you want to go ahead now, they need to put their address here, their date. It's a letter to me, so that's my company, Frank Mentors. They put their property address in, and they just sign to say that they've had the opportunity to go and see a solicitor, but have chosen not to. And that basically is the option agreement. So what it does is it means that for the 6 months, I can purchase their property for the negotiated lower amount, and they can't sell to anyone else. So it just locks them into selling to me, basically. It actually doesn't mean that I have to buy from them, but why wouldn't you once you've negotiated it? Now, if you are not doing below market value, I would still get an option agreement signed at market value, but in the additional terms, so in this bit here, additional agreed terms, I would put in the additional terms. So we're doing one in London at the moment, or one of my clients is rather. I think I've got a slide on it in a minute. It's a Wimbledon area property. He's paying around market value, possibly slightly over actually, which is why it's been sat on the market for a while, and that's where that scraping tool becomes very valuable, because you can see the properties that are overpriced. He's agreed that the vendor will move out for a few months. He'll do some works to the property, and then his investor will purchase it from the vendor, which is using TDIC, turn discounts into cash flow, for the new value. And he's actually making £70,000 profit from doing those works. So I think the difference is about 110 between the asking price now, which the vendor can't get, and the new value of the property once the works have been done. He's spending about 40 on the works to add 110 in value, and so when the investor pays the new price, including the 110, my client gets the 110. The vendor gets what they couldn't get from anyone else, so they're happy. My client is reimbursed the 40, but then they make the 70 profit. So that's where the agreed terms become important if you're paying market value or indeed over market value. And in London at the moment, it's easy to add value by developing. So by either going downwards, so putting in a 1-level basement or a 2-story basement, or in terms of going up into the roof or extending backwards. And we're doing a lot of those in London at the moment, just because the price per square foot of sale price is so much higher than the price per square foot in terms of development. So if you can do works for £140 a square foot, but you can sell at £300 a square foot, then you develop as much as you can, and that's what we're doing in London at the moment. So it really doesn't matter where you are in the country, TDIC will fit with your business model and just raise your profits. Now, out of interest, if you had taken that deal to an investor and said, here you go mate, buy it at market value, pay me to do the works, and then I'll have created 110 grand extra value for you, there is no way that any investor that I can think of would pay you £40,000 for the works and £70,000 for doing the project management and have no equity, no additional equity in there. It just doesn't work. They might give you £10,000 or £20,000 and keep 50 for themselves. And so turning discounts into cash flow enables you to maximise your profits from every deal that you come across if there's an investor involved or you're selling on to someone else. Okay, the second document, which is listed here on the PowerPoint, is an irrevocable agreement. Now, lots of people have heard of option agreements before. Not as many people have heard of irrevocable agreements. So let me talk you through it. It's very, very simple. In a nutshell, it says that the seller, whoever they may be, immediately upon the completion of their property, so 123 ABC Street, for the sum of that, and that's the full market value price. So let's jump back to the one that I'm buying at 150,000, where the vendor's getting 97.5. You would actually type in here. So for the sum of £150,000, I hereby irrevocably instruct you to repay Fast Property Bridging Limited. That's my bridging company. The difference. So it was £57,500. So once I buy it for once my investor buys it for £150,000, this is the vendor telling their solicitor to pay my bridging company £57,500, which is what the vendor's expecting, because the vendor then gets the difference, which is the 97.5. So this form is what protects your income on a TDIC transaction. So the whole transaction happens at the higher price, and only upon completion does the vendor solicitor split the money, give the vendor what they're expecting, and give you what you're making out of the transaction. So this form, it's irrevocable, which means once completion's taken place, the vendor can't change their mind. They can't say, actually, I'd rather keep the whole 150, please give it all to me. The solicitor has to honour the irrevocable agreement. You put your bank details in there, I put my bridging company in there, they sign it, and it says there, I understand that once given this authority cannot be revoked or cancelled, and that's the key part of it. And that's it, very simple irrevocable agreement. So let's move that off there. So those are the two bits of information that or the two bits of documentation rather, that you need in order to tie up a TDIC transaction. Very simple. If you need them, my email address is there, frank@frankmentals.com, and I'll happily send you out some copies. Okay, so that's step one, which is finding the vendor, selling the process to them, so explaining the benefits, finding out their pain. So are they trying to sell too high? Are they in a hurry? Are they going to be repossessed? Are they divorcing? Are they emigrating? Have they inherited the property and they just want the money from it? I've actually in fact in here, I'm pretty sure it's in here, we've got a whole list of reasons that people sell to us. Let me just double check. Yes, here we go. Who buys our service? And we've got one page there of who they might be, why they might sell to us. There's another whole page there of reasons and more. So it goes to actually 42 different reasons that people use our service when selling to us. So it's about identify which of those 42 reasons they are motivated by, and then tailoring our benefits of our service to that. And then once they're happy with the proposal and we've found a win-win, I'm all about the win-win. So it must work for them, it must work for us. Then you sign the vendor up and you're rocking and rolling for step two. So let's move on to step two. Step two is the investor. So I typically will sell to unsophisticated and low levels of sophistication investors. So people that have never invested before, people that are nearing retirement, they've got a big nest egg and they're not going to be able to retire on the small interest rates that the banks are paying at the moment. Like a lot of people that were looking, that were in their mid-40s 10 years ago, they're now in their mid-50s. 10 years ago, you could get 8% return on your money when putting it into a 3-year fixed rate bond. Today, you're lucky if you get 2%. So that's a 4-fold reduction in income, and people can't survive on it. So people are having to work longer, they're nest eggs that they've invested are not doing as well. This TDIC strategy means that they can buy a property which they never would have considered doing before, and I can make property investing as simple as buying some stocks and shares, or as simple as putting money into a fixed rate bond. So what I basically do is I make my services known to friends, family, networking associates. So I go to business networking events, and I have on my business card that I help people to invest in property who've never invested before. And what I do is I find them a property that's going to suit their needs. I refurbish it if it needs refurbishment. I tenant it, and then once it's tenanted and there's got tenants in it paying rent, the investor buys it, and they get a guaranteed return from day one. So they know they've got a refurbished, tenanted property. All they do is sign on the bottom on the dotted line, and I do all the hard work for them. I mitigate as much risk as possible. They get the benefit of my experience of investing in property over the last 10 years. I haven't mentioned it, but I've got a decent sized portfolio. I've got 56 properties as of today. Very varied portfolio, from one bed flats to 2 up, 2 downs, 3 bed semis. We recently purchased an 18 bed hotel. We've done commercial to resi conversion, so all manner of properties. We've got HMOs as well in the portfolio. So we're very diverse, and that obviously gives investors confidence. But obviously, when I started, I didn't have any of that. I had my own home and one buy to let. So you explain the service to the investor. You ask them if that would work for them. In this manual, there is a sheet that I use to show the investor what they're going to receive. It's that sheet there. So page 69 on there. And what it does is it shows them the purchase price, how much they will invest. So in this instance, they're investing just under £33,000. That's the grey line there. And then all the expenses each month, all of the incomes, and it shows them what they'll receive each month. So in this instance, they're putting 33 grand in. They are making £401 a month, and that turns out precisely as a return of 14.63%. That's a 4-bed HMO. Typically, investors' eyes light up when they realise that for no hassle, they can make 14% on their money. What I do then is so after I've shown them that, I sometimes show them, or normally show them, a few properties that are the type of properties that I will be sourcing for them. And if they want to go ahead, I use a very simple 3-page agreement, which is here. So it's a armchair property investment agreement. It's just 3 simple pages, and if you look on the appendix here down the bottom, they pay £2,000 when they sign it, and they pay £5,000 when I found them a property. Their £2,000 is completely refundable if they don't if I don't actually find them a property, and if they pull out after they've signed and paid their £2,000, they don't get it refunded. It's non-refundable. And similarly, once I've found them a property and they've started buying it, they pay £5,000, so a total of 7. And if they then pull out, which is normally quite common, they lose the £7,000. Well, no surprises. I've never had an investor pull out and lose £7,000. It's too much money. So what you get is you then have investors who are serious about buying from you because they've paid £2,000. And I only have 3, 4, 5 investors at any one time waiting. And once I've sourced a few houses, I then will go and find a few more investors. And I generally don't have any difficulty finding investors or indeed houses. So you just pair the 2 up. And I mentioned my portfolio a minute ago. I didn't start with a big chunk of money. I have used this strategy to fund my portfolio. So all of my deposits that I put into properties have all come from turning discounts into cash flow. What I typically do is I'll sell 2 properties and then I'll buy one myself, sell another 2, use the profits from those to live and invest in the next property. So that's step 2. Step 1 was the vendor, step 2 is the investor, and step 3 is babysitting the transaction. We work very closely with our team of solicitors. We will liaise. We have a permission to disclose information with the vendor's solicitor so that we're allowed to speak to them, not give them instructions, but allowed to receive information from them about the transaction, what they're waiting for next, what they need in order to proceed to exchange and completion. We obviously communicate with the investors' solicitors. We have the same permission to disclose information form signed by them, and we sit between the two and move everything along really swiftly. We also help the investor to get a mortgage, so they're welcome to use our recommended mortgage broker. They don't have to, but they're welcome to. And if people use our team, so if the vendors, the investors use our power team, we know we can get deals through really quickly. Our record for last year, 2016, was a normal buy-to-let mortgage purchase with a non-sophisticated investor purchasing and a non-sophisticated vendor. It was 3 weeks, 21 days from offer to the vendor being accepted to completion, which is quite remarkable in the current climate when things take a long time sometimes. And when it completes, now bear in mind, at this point, you've invested no money. So that's not entirely true. You might have decided to pay money on account for the investor, and you might have paid money on account for the vendors' solicitors. So you might be £500 out of pocket. You might have paid a mortgage application fee or valuation fee of £400. So you might be 900 odd pounds out of pocket. But when it completes is when you get paid. So if there is a big refurb to do, what I do is I wait for completion. I get my 15,000 or 25,000, 35,000. Then I do the works, and then I tenant the property. And you'll notice earlier on I said that I guarantee that the property is tenanted from. In fact, we offer 3 guarantees to the investor. This is on page. This is in the manual. Oh, I thought I knew exactly where it was. Here we go. Our 3 guarantees are on page 70 of the manual. You'll notice this manual, just like this webinar, there's no smoke and mirrors, there's nothing held back. I just give as much value as I can. So this is page 70, and it says our 3 guarantees to our investors are: it will take no more than 5 hours of your time from when you accept the property to when you own it. So basically they sign on the dotted line, and after that there's nothing for them to do. We do everything else. Number 2 guarantee is that it will earn you income, at least 50% of our projected income from the day you own it, or we'll make up the difference. And that second guarantee is what I'm talking about here. If I need to do works to it, and if I need to tenant it, which normally happens, and the vendor's living in the property, I clearly can't do that before completion. So I just do it afterwards, and all I do is I pay the investor 50% of the rent for the 4, 5, 6 weeks that it takes to do the refurb. So on this property, you might be talking £600 rent, the property you just saw was £400 profit a month. So we would just give them £200 a month whilst we did the works and tenant it, which is fine if you've just made 15, 25k. The final guarantee, by the way, third one, is that you will only pay what the independent valuer from the bank values the property at. So rather than us tell them what it's worth, we do tell them what we think it will be valued at, but they only pay what the valuer values it at, which gives them massive reassurance that they're not being hoodwinked in any way. And by the way, the vendor, the whole way through, right from the first conversation, knows what their property is worth and what they will receive at the end of the transaction. So again, there's no hiding anything from the vendors. They know what they're paying in terms of equity. And that's it. 3 simple steps and a big payday at the end of it. I say big. it's not huge, but it's better than, you know, slogging your guts out for a year on rent to rent and having half of that to show for the work. You know, it's you do a fair bit of work when you set this up, but then you get a really good payout. It's not earning 500 quid a month or 700 quid a month running a HMO for on a property that someone else owns, as an example. So a quick recap: you find the vendor, you sell your service to them, excuse me, and you sign them up. Second step is you find the investor, you sell the service to the investor. So minimum stress, really easy, no more than 5 hours, start to finish. I call it an out-of-the-box investment. You give them the investment, they open it, and they take the investment out, and it starts performing. There's no messing around with it. Or alternatively, an armchair investment. They sit on the sofa, and you just do everything for them. And of course, signing the investor up. You've seen the agreement in the manual. And then babysitting the transaction, seeing it through to completion. You want to keep an eye on it because there's a lot of money in it for you. So you babysit the transaction, and that's it. That are the 3 steps of the turning discounts into cash flow system. And if you are interested in making big chunks of money regularly from this strategy, look at the example of Maddie in Northampton. Look at the example of Mark in London. There you go. There's the example of Mark in London. Wimbledon Properties, £70,000 profit. In Nottingham, I've done one that completed in December for £23,000 profit. That was no refurb. There was a tenant in situ, so it was really simple to do. Little 2-bed semi-detached house made me 23 grand. Took about 6 weeks start to finish, maybe 7. And then I've got 2 more signed up already in January. We're only on the 16th of January. 18th of January. With a total of £74,000 profit over the 2. So really lucrative when you start doing a fair number of these. So I told you I'd make you an offer at the end of the webinar, and I will. I would love for you to start using this strategy. Just to let you know, I've got people using this strategy in Liverpool, Stoke-on-Trent, Southampton, London, Northampton, Oxford, Derby, Nottingham, literally all over the country. So if you are wanting to make this work, then this is how to do it. Okay, so you get this 100-page manual. It is actually exactly 100 pages. I think it's a 101-page manual with everything in it that I've already described. You also get a 6-hour DVD. So this is the Frank Partnership Turning Discounts into Cashflow DVD. It's a double DVD. It actually is the distilled best bits of 2 of my seminar days. So on the back here, you can see there are 21 different chapters to it, which covers every aspect of the 3 steps of the Turning Discounts into Cashflow seminar. You get me doing live examples, actually doing role plays with people, 6 hours worth of hardcore, no holds barred information about how to run this strategy. Bearing in mind that I've taken the last 9 or so years to perfect this strategy, so there's a lot of detail that I haven't been able to get across in this short webinar. And then, so I reckon the manual's worth about £100. We don't sell it, but it took a lot of my life to write it. Oh, also I haven't mentioned, but in the back I've got loads of actual property deals with the actual nitty-gritty of the numbers, loads of those, to show you how you can do different types of deals, and they're all dated. So that one was January 2015. This one here is June 2016. So you can see what's possible. It also tells you where in the country they are, etc. And then the final part of the offer is a whole day face-to-face with myself seminar. We do them quite small, so we have no more than 25-30 people in the room, so that I can give you some one-on-one time during the day as well. Normal price for that is £497 plus VAT. The DVD, by the way, is valued at £200. So that's more than £850, and I'm offering all of that for a much reduced price of £297 plus VAT. So basically, if you want to come on my next seminar, you can come on it for the reduced price of £297 plus VAT. When you sign up, so once you pay, and I'll give you the link in a moment to pay, all you need to do is, there's the link, by the way, if you want to make a note of that now. As soon as you click on that link, you can't click on it because it's recording, so as soon as you type that link into your URL, it will take you to a payment page. You pay the £297 plus VAT. As soon as we receive that from you, we will post out the manual and the DVD to you first class, so you will get that within 24 hours, and you can then start watching it, learning the strategies, learning all the documentation, so that when you come on the seminar, you are, as prepared as you possibly can be for it. The URL, in case you can't see it, is http://bit.ly/2ELLUUT. That's an abbreviated URL for you. Sorry, it makes no sense, but it's a bit.ly URL. So that's how you can go and register on the seminar. Alternatively, drop me an email and I'll send you that link so you can just click on it if you're having any difficulties. We run these courses, turning discounts into cash flow courses, periodically. If you sign up on that link, what you get is a ticket for a course. The next course is on the 1st of February. If you can't make that one though, don't worry, let us know and you can just come on to a later one. In fact, a lot of people come on to multiples just so they get more benefit, and you are welcome to come on. It's not a full price, it's a reduced price. So, Wednesday the 1st of February is the seminar. It's 10 AM to 5 PM, 9 full hours of seminar. It's Derby, it's based in Derby. It's walking distance from the station, which is 90 minutes direct from St Pancras if you're coming up from London. £297 plus VAT. For the webinar I did yesterday, it was limited to 30 people, so the seminar's limited to 30 people. I think we've already got 18 signed up, and we had 98 people on the webinar yesterday. I haven't checked how many have signed up, but I know that we've still got some spaces. So if you click on the link, and hopefully we'll see you on the 1st of February. As I say, if you can't make the 1st of February, then that's absolutely fine. You'll still get the DVD, you'll still get the manual, and you will then be able to come on our next seminar. We've got one in March and we'll have more after that. So don't be put off if you can't make the 1st of Feb. Okay, I think that is about everything I wanted to cover on the webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got loads of value from it. And I look forward to hearing your success stories about the big chunks of money you've made from turning discounts into cash flow. And I look forward to seeing you on the 1st of February and really giving you that shot in the arm, giving you all the detail that you need to rock and roll with this strategy. It's been brilliant for me over the last decade, and I'd love for it to transform your business too. Thanks for listening, and thanks for taking the time to listen in on this Frank Partnership webinar.